I'm surprised. I just had the courage to raise my hand, and I'm deeply touched by the support that we're giving one another. I have been battling a life-threatening illness for the last year, which really required me to sequester. I couldn't walk or speak at that time, and any outside stimulation would cause the cells in my body to react and cause some serious neurological reactions. So this has been a real blessing for me and all of us to be able to come together and heart to heart. And I just thank you both and hold you and everyone in this program deep in my heart. But the question I have is about grief and the realization that in every moment and in every breath, there's a coming and a going. And certainly right now in our lives, there's a lot that we're having to let go of. And I just would like you to talk about how we work with that and how we come to accept the things that life asks us to let go of.
Well, Danielle, that's a very profound question and very powerfully framed by you. And you know, there's not one simple answer that I just here's the key to that one, grief, human grief. And then, oh, thank you, because now I can kind of make my way through it without paying such a high cost. Grief, there's a cost, but there's also a gift in grief. I mean, the grief is part of the love affair. It's the kind of longing or the yearning or the missing of, and the poignancy of something that was and isn't now, a loss, or, it can take a lot of different forms. And it has a lot of meaning and also added narratives to it that sometimes compound the grief unnecessarily, because the beauty sometimes gets ignored for the magnitude of the story about how awful it is. I can't help but noticing that you're framed by snow-covered mountains behind you.
Yes, I happen to live in the mountains of Lake Tahoe.
Okay, so, those mountains, they have been there for unimaginable by humans eons, okay? Unimaginable eons. They've seen all of us come and go. They've seen long before there was a Lake Tahoe. And we turn, if you were to turn right now and gaze on them, which I'm sure you do quite often, they're holding down something, a reminder that we're here for a fraction of a second as human beings. I mean, a human lifetime, even if you are healthy through the whole of it, it's like that. And even multiple generations, humanity is, as we know it, has hardly been on the planet for, sort of the blink of an eye compared to the geological time. And so when we can hold these things in perspective, that in a certain way, we're blessed by any opportunity to have a body, even if it's doesn't work right or things go wrong and medicine can't fix everything. And that's a huge one, when we discover that, oh my God, what's all this about medicine and it can't fix everything. And even this pandemic, I mean, look how many incredibly brilliant people in laboratories are working day and night to try to come up with even understanding what the virus is doing, never mind how to develop an appropriate vaccine for it or find the right drugs to mitigate it or whatever. I mean, isolating like this, social isolation is the kind of the only thing we have, but it's not the high-tech solution to a pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's killing other aspects of our lives. We talk about the economy, but other aspects of our lives in ways that are horrible, and horrible for many people in ways that not horrible for other people, tend to have to, just happen to be more privileged. But nobody's privileged, at least yet, although that it's not for lack of research in that domain, privileged to like live forever. We still all are subject to the same human mortality. And I think when we remember that, it puts grief into a kind of framework that allows us to dance with it, to love it, to experience the underlying sort of subterranean currents of it in ourselves that remind us of how meaningful it is to even be able to take one breath in and out, or to connect, make eye contact with a child or a grandchild or just anybody on the street. Not that we're, you know, doing that so much now. Now we are, but it's with masks on. So I don't want to go too deeply into sort of grief in generality, but really just ask you if you care to share in front of 1,000 intimate people that you don't know or more, where the concern is coming from in you. And maybe then perhaps we can drill down a little bit more specifically to where the question is coming from and what the potential um, insight might be.
To be honest, I don't, it isn't that I have a deep concern about it, because I've come to the point, much like you described, where this has taught me how to welcome grief and understand that it's a part of every breath. And I also do, and I've been a doula for end-of-life work for the last 10 years.
Wow.
And every one of the people I have sat at the bedside with has taught me many, many lessons. But the biggest thing that has come out of grief for me has been really that deep connection with awareness and nature, and the fact that it's always there for me. And
Here,
even in,
let's say it's always here for me rather
okay,
than there.
it's always here for me.
Good. I can
And
feel the difference
yeah, I can
in
too.
what you just said.
I can too. It is
Beautiful.
always here for me. And it really, it feels like that awareness, as well as the nature that surrounds me, can really hold anything that arises in my life, and allow or provide or allow for me the ability to kind of flow with whatever shows up. And
not resist grief.
exactly.
And of course,
Exactly.
you've put yourself in a position working with the dying people that, end of life care, that, you're around it a lot. And it is very poignant. And there's an enormous amount to learn. And the learning is very humbling because like we're all on the same trajectory. It's just a matter of
Absolutely.
time. And it's not like it's always painless, even physically, never mind emotionally.
Yeah.
So then this becomes the practice, is how to cultivate equanimity without dissociation, without othering or distancing people. I mean, and you wouldn't be able to do this work if you were doing anything like that. But those, impulses do arise from time to time in all of us that we just, because we don't want that for ourselves. And therefore we feel uncomfortable about it because we've got this fear that's in there, But once you make friends with the fear, then all of a sudden things could be very different. I just don't want this to sound too theoretical because I'm talking about something that's really like, um, I don't know what to put it, but the kind of an ultimate tango with reality.
I think absolutely. And I really feel so much right now. I think maybe what prompted me to ask the question is I just feel the overwhelming grief of families that are not, as Soren said yesterday, he was not able to be there with his stepson as he went through surgery and with his family. He was sitting in his car, and that just brings tears to my eyes right now. Um, there is so much suffering right now, and I guess I just want to know what is the best way we can support that. I have this sense that sitting in this practice, doing this, may be enough, or at least a good start.
Yeah, it looks a lot like nothing sitting in this practice, as you put it, but it turns out to be just about everything because it's not just sitting.
Exactly.
And so it's life. And so basically it's then rising to the occasion in whatever way our heart tells us has integrity. And that may be, you know, sort of providing resources to people who are less resourced to the point where it might make us feel uncomfortable even, you know, but whatever it is for every single one of us, it's like that impulse is one of recognizing that, you know, if things were slightly different, the tables would be turned and it would be, you could be there. And that this is happening in every single moment, not just with COVID, but COVID has brought it like into, and then the whole question of like, well, how much is this okay? Because it's preventing us from going back to eating in restaurants. And, you know, we're going to have to sort of deal with this as a society, as a nation, the US, and also every nation that's facing this. And I really feel like you're tapping the deepest possible resources that we have, we all are, by trusting in our heart's recognition of what you just described in hearing what Soren was recounting and, you know, the poignancy of sitting in the car in the parking lot and not being able to be there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think you gave me the courage to take the next steps to do something.
Awesome. I mean, one of the things I said earlier, I don't remember, was in the guided meditation or afterwards, but that meditation is not about quietism, being quiet, you know, sort of, and never doing anything. It's about living life as if it really, really, really mattered with integrity and generosity, which means when the doing comes out of being, then there's a certain kind of signature to it and coherence to it that I don't know what verb to use, but let's say drives the love in a way that is healing for others who are suffering. And so your being does all the work. And people, you know, feel gratitude for the ways in which you've committed your life to that calling. And this is true for every single one of us, each in our own way. So I can't be you and you can't be me, but we can all be who we really, really, really are. And a lot of time we're not because we get kind of lost in some Sargasso sea of our own fear and confusion. And this is a time to work with fear and confusion, not to turn away from it. Thanks a
I
lot,
agree.
Danielle. It's a
Thank you
real
so much.
pleasure to talk with you.
Deep, deep bows
And
to everyone.
all best wishes for healing in whatever ways that's possible.
Thank you so much.